Hello, finally I made it. It's been a while. I think it's been a mix of getting the dates and times mixed up and a little bit of fatigue as well. It's a real, in this part of the world, it's a really cold winter, and it's really getting to people's moods, I think, with rain and snowfall and everything. So anyway, it's a little bit of a tough winter, I think, for everyone, and just trying to manage everything that's going on and being there for the live events. So today's Friday. I usually publish Mondays and Fridays anyway. So today I wanted to do a Q&A where I reply to questions I receive via YouTube. And of course, if you log on right now and you want to ask a question, I will reply. So the questions I received via YouTube are a little bit different. So I think they would probably be interesting for most of you because everyone watching my channel is mostly expats trying to come to Switzerland for the first time, maybe trying to understand the Swiss market, a lot of people outside of EU as well. So I think some of these live Q&As will probably repeat themselves, meaning that you probably have heard this before from me via a previous Q&A or even via my videos that I publish. So I start with Albus, who asked a question. Hi, madam, how about educators, specifically secondary teachers? Are they looking for something like that? Do I get a job there? Okay, so first thing that I would ask is, are you EU or non-EU passport? Again, I know I said this 200,000 times, but right now for non-EU, there's only the option of international organizations. Private sector is not going to consider applications from outside of the EU. And the reason, the main reason is that it's too difficult to get a work permit. So companies are trying to go to the easier, faster, and easier to get, basically, type of solution. So for the question about education, I published before a website where you can find a little bit of information. I'll try to find the link again, but basically you would have to speak the local language, so French or German, depending on where you want to be. And you would need to get a certificate, to teach in Switzerland. You would need to Swissize your profile. So if you really want to do that, it means training in Switzerland, learning the language. So it's not going to be an easy, I can come and just teach. So the other thing that a lot of people do and that I would strongly suggest is to consider teaching English as a second language and maybe do that online. So you don't have to worry about finding a school that wants to hire you, secondary education, because they have to go with the public or the canton type of rules. So if you set yourself up as a teacher online, you cater to anyone who wants to buy your services. And a lot of parents are looking for tutors as well. So I would say teach without going through the official system, where you would have requirements. Maybe you set up a website and you teach English as a second language, or you can teach your specificity. Maybe it's tech, or maybe it's whatever, So, and parents would pay you as a tutor, something like that, for secondary education. Next question, Angelino. I like your videos. They're very inspirational. Thank you, Angelino. Here's the question. Can a Pakistani passport having foreign qualifications obtain a teaching job in Switzerland? I think winning the lottery would be easier. Any comment? Well, I like the sense of humor there, and I confirm that probably winning the lottery, you have more chances. But the humor aside, it's true that you would need to speak the local language and have an EU passport. So right there, it's complicated. Now, again, consider maybe the international organization where you could do something maybe with training. Sometimes they may need someone in the administration that would do some training or something like that. So maybe you can take your skills of liking to teach and transform that into maybe training in an international organization, and see the unjobs.org. Maybe there could be something that's interesting for you there, because they do a lot of training also in international organization. It's not necessarily a typical secondary education training in a school format. It would be maybe training to for the people who go on mission, or there could be some language training as well. So it's something to look at. I mean, because people in international organization do get trained on a lot of topics. So maybe entering into a function where you could have access to get trained yourself first, and then evolve from there to set yourself up. But you do need to consider only the international organization. And by that, I really mean the UN, because a lot of organizations in Geneva do not have the immunities and privileges, so they can't hire globally. So the best thing is to check the unjobs.org, and you look at the Geneva station and see what positions are available, and if you could fit. Next question, Dr. Mandeep. I have done PhD and postdoc in math and looking for the position of associate professor in math or in supply chain management. So you have a positioning issue there. They're two different things. It's going to be hard to be taken seriously as a math teacher and as a supply chain professional. They're two different functions. So you would have to pick and choose, where do you want to grow your career? Is it a math professor, or is it supply chain? Secondary, as a non-EU passport, right now the Swiss market would not be a good resource for you. What you could do again is consider the international organization, and maybe supply chain. In international organization could be office management maybe, or vendor relations or something like that. But again, only the international organization, and mainly for you, unjobs.org. Next person, ProBiz. Isabelle, why do you have such harsh rules for Canadians and Australians that are in developed countries? Well, first of all, I'm not the one making the rules. So I'm just a consultant with a website and a channel sharing information about entrepreneurship, careers, and networking. So I'm not the one making any decisions. I'm just saying how things work in Switzerland mainly. So I'm just sharing with you what the rules are and how things get done in Switzerland. Now, I know for some of you it's hard to accept, because it's not fun to say, well, because I have such a passport, certain countries are not open to me. But the same with the US, really. You can't really, I was working in the US, I had to apply for a green card, and I had to fight for that. It wasn't given to me automatically. I had to apply, I had to do a bunch of things. So it's the same in the US. If I remember correctly, in Australia, you need to get a work and study type of a visa. I think it's called holiday and work, or work holiday, or something like that. So you can't just migrate to Australia easy like that. So I think most countries have their rules, and they limit on migration for certain countries. So it's not really anything new. I think if you really, really, really want Switzerland, which I really discourage people, especially younger professionals, to focus on the country. I prefer you focus on growing your career in your field and go wherever that next step would be, than focus on a specific country when you're younger. Now, if you want to retire, or you're close to retirement, and maybe you're like, well, it would be great to go and move to Switzerland for retirement, then that's another thing. Or you have the perfect profile for Switzerland and you're in the EU, then that's also a good idea. But I think if you're an American or an Australian, you have a great profile, and you can't really find the type of work in Switzerland easier, and you have the permit issue, you're better off to follow up with your career in New Zealand. If you're in Australia, for example, depending on which work you do. So there's lots of things that are a little bit closer to home for you that would be a good next step rather than Switzerland. So you just have to keep that in perspective, that not every country is a good choice for an expat. And Switzerland has specificities. So it's good for some, not so good for others. And that's usually my part to tell you, based on your experience and your skill set and the rules, what would be a better option for you. So yeah, Switzerland has those rules. Any country has rules, really. So it's a question of where are you the best fit, and does it make sense for you? So I would say if you're Canadian or Australian, there's probably a lot of other options in between for you to consider, where you could really learn a lot and grow your career. And Switzerland, again, is, depending on what you do, is not necessarily a great next destination for you. The next person, que ça va? Is there any best hope for civil engineering jobs in Switzerland? So engineering is one of those that, depending on which kind of engineering, there's a lot of opportunities, but it's mostly software engineering. So the civil engineer or more those mechanical engineers are less in demand. And they do require the local network usually, because you need to, if you're a civil engineer, you need to know people maybe in the city hall or, you know, the contractors and everything. So it's really, I would say it's a job where network is important. So it's not going to be easy as a civil engineer to get the next job. Now, if you're a software engineer or more tech engineer, then it's a little bit different story and you would have more options. Now, reading this message, again, I assume you're from outside of EU. So again, same thing I said before, you're better off to look in another country, maybe where civil engineering would be more approachable for you and where there's a bigger demand. So off the top of my head, I don't know. Where are they really building roads and, you know, building offices, building things in general? That's how you should be thinking. So really, in terms of when you're thinking about jobs or growing your career, I want you to think more about what value do I have to offer? Where are the projects for my type of work, as opposed to which country do I want to live in? Because again, they may not match. So what happens is that you're going to come to Switzerland and then you realize, oh, there's no market for me. And you've moved for nothing, basically. So it's better to say, okay, I'm a civil engineer. You know, my work is based on helping people build roads, let's say. I don't know, maybe it's something different. So where are the countries where it's really building right now, where they need resources? If you're more towards the India, Pakistan, all these places, I would think Dubai would make more sense, because that's where they usually have these big buildings and they're always building something there. So, and they're really always busy, you know, getting tourists in and all that. So they have the big hotels. And so if I were a civil engineer over there, I would definitely think Dubai would make more sense than Switzerland. Because Switzerland, I don't see a lot of projects like this of big buildings and, you know, big projects and stuff. So it's just using a little bit your taking a step back and say, okay, based on what I'm doing, you know, same thing when people say, well, what about HR, which is more my area of knowledge? Well, if you want to be in talent management, for example, in recruitment or training, you know, where is the action happening right now? Where are the big decisions being made? I would think, again, the big headquarters, you know, maybe Dublin, maybe there's a lot going on in the Nordics right now. So I shared a video before and I will try to add it to this streaming, but I don't know if I can, otherwise I will post it below. I did a video about the big hubs where, you know, it's really going to grow in the next years. I remember it was a study and I shared that in a video where I explained where you have the big hubs in Europe. And definitely, I believe Nordics was part of it, and maybe Dublin or something. So there's going to be growth hubs. I didn't see Geneva or Switzerland being inside those growth hubs. Now in Switzerland, there's pockets of opportunities, as I call them. So yeah, in Zurich or in those cantons over there, you have some startups. You know, a lot of blockchain and crypto right now. So if you're in this field, maybe it's a good choice for you. But again, it's only pockets of opportunities. So for most people that are writing to me that are not in these fields, there's not going to be a lot for you to look at in terms of opportunities. If you're again, HR person, finance person, all these functional roles, it's going to be limited in terms of scope. So I would say, you know, again, what choice do you have? So if you're following somebody, then you have to make it do, right? You have to make it happen because you're following someone and you have to find a solution. So then it's about working and finding a solution. Now, if you have a huge choice and you say, I'm an expat, I can work anywhere, and there's not really those pockets of opportunities for you, then why would you want to come and, you know, struggle? It's better to say, okay, where are the hubs where things are happening? And this is where I want to be located in the next years. Because again, you have to think long-term, not just now. Where is it growing right now? So I'll share this video I made, and there's a study. I linked the study also in the video where you can read about it, about those hubs that are growing, and see a little bit where you want to be as a 21st century employee, basically. Next question, what's the smallest possible way one can try being an entrepreneur so they can find out whether they're cut for it or not? So I like that question. It's a little bit different. Well, what's the best way to trying to be an entrepreneur is just to try. I think that's where it starts, to just do. I think the big thing about entrepreneurs is that they're doers. So they just like action, and they like to build things. So if you're thinking about it, just start small. Do a trial with something. The great thing is that now you can really try without having to lose a lot of money or have big expenses. I mean, now you can easily make a website. Even a few years back, I remember there weren't all these possibilities to just build a website. You had to pay someone, a developer, to do a website for you. Now you can have a website online in minutes, with just a basic offer. Or the way most entrepreneurs do it now is they start by building community around them, around an idea, concept, or a program or something like that. And then when they have enough traction, meaning they have enough visibility, the group is growing. You see that with Facebook groups or things like that. When they have enough people that are interested in their community, then they launch a product. So for example, let's say you're a big dog fan, and you love dogs, and you're passionate about all the different accessories about dogs. So let's say you have all these passions, and you want to have more offers for dogs, for example. Well, you would just start a page with dog lovers or something like that, and then you share photos, you share a little bit, maybe some accessories that you've seen online, and you just get people to be interested in it as well. And then when you have enough people following you, then you say, hey guys, I have this new leash for dogs. Would you be interested in buying it? And that's how you start getting people to buy your leash. So that's an example for pet business. But let's say same thing with beauty products. You start talking about, maybe skincare. And then you get people interested in skincare. And then all of a sudden you launch your own skincare or hair stuff. Or, maybe if you're in tech, you realize people really, really like right now to have mobile devices and mobile accessories, and you start selling your own accessories. So really, you just have to find what is the thing that you would like to get community around, what's your topic of interest, and then you launch something that they can purchase from you. But usually it's just one product to start. And then when you have enough buyers for your one product where you start, then you start building a second product, a third product, and then you start really having a business. But at the beginning, it's usually just one product. And again, it could be a service, or a physical product. But that's how you start a business in 2021. There's lots of books about it, but really just start small. See, what I would do is just see if you get some interest around your topic before you even do a website and start selling a product. Just have a group and just see if people are interested in what it is that you're interested in. And if you see enough interest, then you can say, okay, now is the time to build the product and sell it, or build the service and sell it. So that's how you do it. I see there's questions also on StreamYard, so I'll just pick them up. I just finished my list here. So Martin asked how to balance what you're passionate about with profitable business models, with sustainable competitive advantage. I can't seem to find something I'm passionate about that also makes money. That's the big thing for a lot of people. How long should you be in the learning stage before you start? Well, it's a little bit related to what I was saying earlier with Kukozan. It's the same type of thing. Am I cut to be an entrepreneur? Passion and profits, does it work? What most people will tell you that are passionate entrepreneurs is that you don't really start a business based on profit. So you start a business usually because it's something you see missing in the marketplace. Usually when entrepreneurs start, it's something that they would like to see themselves, and they don't. So a lot of businesses get created that way. You realize, well, I'm a woman, I'm plus size, and I can't find any dresses that fit me. So you know what? I'm going to create my own plus size dresses. Or, I'm a person living on my own, and I would love to get some services, but I'm by myself, and I would love to have an app where I could just order services and food delivery, for example. That's a big one. with Uber Eats, for example, well, what if I could get food at home without having to move? And right now it's especially very, very interesting for people. So that's how usually it starts. You see something missing, maybe think right now with the situation that we have where we're stuck at home. So a lot of businesses now get created as well, where people are at home and they're like, well, how do I exercise now that I'm stuck at home? How do I get my food? What kind of thing I could be doing online to keep me busy and motivated for my career, like what I'm doing. Or how could I get learnings, courses and things like that. So think a little bit about what the marketplace needs right now, what you like, and that's the happy medium where you have a product. But usually, again, what I was saying, before you build anything, before you try to sell it immediately, just try to create community around it. So that people are interested. Maybe the common thing is that they're all interested in wildlife, or they're all interested in food, or you create a center of interest that everyone wants to participate in this common interest, whatever that is. And then you have a homogeneous type of a client base potentially, and these people would be interested in buying services or products around this interest. So for example, if I'm someone who loves learning and I'm always taking a course and I'm part of a community, for example, that's learning based and growth based community, and then they sell me courses, which is the case, I think, for there's a startup that I saw. I think it's called, it's going to come to me, Valley something, Deep Valley, or something with Valley in it. And that's what they do. They basically have community. So they're all about wanting to learn things. And then they sell courses online in different topics, and mostly about the conscious learning, meaning learning about how to become a better person. So it's a little bit related to coaching as well. I think it's Mind Valley, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's Mind Valley. But that's how they build their business, around the learning community. And now they sell courses online, so that's an example of how you start a business. Or if people are sports fan and, and outdoors type of fan, which, by the way, in Switzerland, there's a lot of outdoors fans. So if you build something around that, so it could be, I know people who created, marathons or outdoors activities, maybe with mountains and stuff like that. So once you have that community, you can sell maybe packages where people go to the mountains for a couple of days and maybe they get a lunch included and all that. So you have different ideas where, depending again on your passion, see what people would be willing to pay for, because there's things that people love, but they don't pay for it, So for example, that's why we have a lot of channels like YouTube and all that, because people love content. But now what kind of content would they be willing to pay for? It would have to be very, very, very specialized, maybe for one niche. But most of the time, people like to watch videos for free. That's just 90% of the people. So you just have to see with your concept, how much would people be willing? Look around you, around you have, you can ask feedback from communities around you. Would you be willing to pay for this thing? Or is it something that you think people would never put money towards? They would love to hear about it, to read about it, but they're not really willing to put money for it. So that's where you have to find the happy medium. And it's not easy. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are still fighting for it. Sometimes even very known companies. I mean, they have a lot of people following them. They get a lot of interest, but they're not really making money. So then also what's happening, look at the Facebook model. They're basically a data holder. So they have huge data because everyone is on there sharing information. So there's a huge data potential. And then basically the way you become a good business is because people know that you have a lot of data, and you become precious because you have that data. So people maybe want to advertise on your platform. They want to partner with you. And then you find another way to build up your business and get some funding. So it's not necessarily about selling a product directly or selling a service, but it could be that you're building such a valuable app, for example, or such a valuable website, and you have so many people visiting. A lot of people start a business that way, where they have a blog and it's so visited that all of a sudden, sponsors want to be on it. They have partnerships, maybe they're influencers. So they find another way to monetize their gifts. And that's really what you need to find in 2021 is, how do I monetize my gifts at some point? I think the best way is just to start again with community, having people interested in what you're interested in, and then start there, and you see which form it takes. Maybe you sell a product, maybe you sell a service, maybe in the end you just become a website or a platform that people love to visit, or you have your YouTube channel that people love to visit, and that's visibility for you. So in the end, you become an influencer because you have a lot of visits, and then you have different kinds of businesses. So it could be partnership with a brand, it could be you monetize in another way, a little bit different. So there's so many ways now to build businesses, a way more than before. I mean, again, before it was just, okay, you have a brick and mortar business, and it was very straightforward. You sell cars or you sell a service. But now you have so many things you could do. I mean, you have people making money on just selling their photographs online. And I'm not going to get into the details of OnlyFans because that's not really my type of business. But when you think about the business models there, that people could monetize things that you'd think like, what? How is that possible? But yeah, there's really all kinds of things now that you wouldn't think necessarily people are willing to pay for, but they are. And it could be very strange things. So I think doing research also on what I looked at the other day, because it was something I was interested in, is to look at the Shopify stores. I will try to find the link here if you want to buy an online store. So they sell people who start the business, so they do the heavy lifting. They have a page already. They have already a boutique online, and they're just selling it. So you can start a business easy that way. We just take over from somebody a product that you sell online. So I find that's very good for people who are starting out and just want to get their feet wet with entrepreneurship without having to spend a lot of money and to invest a lot of time. So I find buying a Shopify store is a great way. And it gives you ideas also on the different stores and which ones are doing good and everything. So I'll post the link below for some of you who may be interested. And it's also a good possible solution if you're sitting somewhere and thinking, okay, my job is gone. I don't know what I want to do. It has to be online. I would say probably, why not take over a Shopify store? Again, the prices range from 100 Swiss francs to thousands, but you can find a store for a couple hundred of Swiss francs to take over, where you have a basic store setup and a web page, a social media page. So that's something also I would consider for those of you who want to try entrepreneurship at a very low risk type of thing. So that was for Martin and Kukozan, the reply. Last one is, hi ma'am, how is it going? What to do if there's no promotions for next position in our company after 1 or 2 years of joining and negotiations with boss? Which is better to join in a startup company with good pay or an established top MNC company? Well, when you're young, I always say to start with big names, because big names will sell themselves. So if you start and you have a name like Nestle, or an accounting firm like the Big Four, Price Waterhouse, or P&G, or those big names, and when you leave, you have a business card on your CV. So people will say, oh, they work for this company, so they associate you with the company. Whereas if you work for an unknown startup, it's a huge risk factor because a lot of them fail. So you may end up losing your job. And it's also not known. So the traction there is not as big on your name. So it's great that you had the experience. It could be interesting to work for another startup that maybe is more advanced, but they're looking for people who have this startup experience. So for example, in the blockchain, crypto money type of area right now, if you really want to get the experience, and you want to really go there, there's not going to be huge companies right now to pick from, because it's a new world. Just like a lot of things right now are new in 2021. I see a lot of platforms also for crypto exchange and all that. It's very new, high risk, but it's also, if you have this kind of experience, then you can really grow into the field. Whereas if you go for a consulting firm, it's probably going to be more standard type of learning. So it really depends on what you want to do with your career. If you really want to go towards those innovative solutions, then at some point it's good to have the startup experience that you can then keep going and really be in the innovation, but it's also high risk. So I know now, I think also I read that yesterday, I was learning about the 2021 best companies that people want to work for. A lot of people are trying to find this happy medium again. They want a company that's stable, but at the same time, they want the innovation. So there's a few companies that can offer that, but it's not going to be necessarily logical, because in a way, if you're a stable company, you're not necessarily taking the risks into this new niche. So the high risk is usually, it's like the training. It's like, when you go and you train online, the high risk type of options are usually the big reward type of options. So I think if you're younger also, maybe at some point it's good to have both. Maybe you start with the less risk option with the big company to have the name on the resume and have that as a basic selling point on your resume. And then the next option, maybe as a step 2, would be to try a startup in a very innovative environment where you could maybe take a bit more risk, maybe again as a step number 2. So yeah, it's really part of what you want to do. But again, I think now people are looking also a little bit of stability, just for the security part and all that. So yeah, the big names would always sell better on a resume, because again, recruiters know them. They have made their the thing is with the big companies is that they have made their case. If you work for a company that has been there for 100 years, you know that their products are efficient. They always make a turn in time, and they always end up doing well, even during the worst times in the history. If you go for a startup, it's a hit or miss. I mean, you could work for the next Facebook or the next Google, just like you could work for someone who's going to be gone in 2 years' time. So it is a risk factor. And I think unless you're building this company, meaning let's say you're the owner with the co-founder, and it's an entrepreneurship venture you do together, then it's completely different as being hired by these organizations as an employee. I think it's 2 different models. So if you're an employee, I think if you're in an employee mindset, it makes more sense to go with the secure option because that's what you want in the end. But if you're building something as opposed to, and you really want the innovation and you really want to go in the forefront, I think you may as well be the founder of the startup or the co-founder of the startup rather than trying to be employed by one. Because in the end, go all the way or don't go. You know what I mean? It's like at some point, do I want to be the chief finance officer for a startup when I could actually be the co-founder in something that I could do myself? So, and it's more rewarding as well because you're really then 100% in it. So that was my mixed thoughts there about startups and businesses in general. Okay, so that was it. So now I'll look at the questions here. I've got a question, Dollar Dreams. I like the name. Hi, Isabelle. Currently, I'm working as a database administrator in India. Is it possible to migrate? Well, I just covered that. Non-EU is not possible right now. Maybe database, you can find something with the UN because they do have IT. So UN orgs, unjobs.org, within IT, you can probably find something there with administrator for sure. But that's going to be your way to get into Switzerland. But the private sector is not going to apply for a work permit at this stage. CA is asking me, where are you from? So I'm French by birth. I went to California when I was 17, so I lost my accent, so I don't have the accent. Moved back to France at 28, and now I've been in Switzerland for a while. So yeah, I'm French by birth. Smile, you're amazing. John Smith, hi Isabelle. Are there many startup companies in Switzerland? And Switzerland, good place for tech entrepreneurs? Very good question. So there is, as I say, pockets of opportunities in Switzerland, but you would have to see if it's worth it for you based on a lot of different things. You know, I'm not sure where you're from, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's the first hurdle is the passport. You know, how can you get into Switzerland? Because If you're a tech entrepreneur, but you're from the US or Canada, then you have the issue of the passport, of the permit. So already it makes it more difficult than if you start in the US, for example, and you're American. What I usually tell people is start the business in your country because it's easier. You know the language, you know the rules. You're in your environment of knowledge, basically. And when you see that your business is growing, then maybe it would make sense to look at Switzerland, maybe for different reasons. You have to see with the type of tech company you want to build, is Switzerland a good market for you? So as opposed to looking at, again, it's the same thing I was saying before. When you're building your career, the thought should be, where do I add value? What makes the most sense for me, as opposed to Switzerland because I love the mountains and the lakes and stuff. So again, Switzerland could make sense if you're, let's say, again, really big on crypto and you've identified that there's a few companies there that are really heavily working on the topic and you really want to communicate with them and to see if there's opportunities. But again, I would only do that if you have an EU passport, because especially as a startup, they wouldn't have the resources or the funding to fully apply for a work permit for you. And again, I've explained this. This is not a question of discrimination, but it's more administration, and getting a work permit for somebody is long, it's costly. So a startup definitely wouldn't have the resources to apply for a work permit for you, in my view, unless you're a co-founder for a startup. But then same thing, to build the business in Switzerland, you would need to have an EU passport. And again, there's some costs involved. So in terms of starting a business in Switzerland, especially in tech, especially if you need to recruit people and to develop your business in Switzerland, you have to see if cost-wise it makes sense, you know. So yeah, you can research this in Switzerland to see a little bit. Maybe you research, you know, crypto and tech and see a little bit what's happening there. But I would also consider maybe places in your home country, where again, networking would be made easier, starting would be easier. And then when you have a structure and your business starts working, you have what I call the proof of concept, meaning you have something going. Then you can look at Switzerland as a next step, you know, as maybe you migrate with your business there, but then you have something to show for. So you can come to Switzerland, to the authorities, and say, look, I have a growing business in California, or especially from the US, I think it would look good. So I've started my startup in the Silicon Valley or somewhere like that. I already have whatever, 200 customers. My app is growing. And now I would like to settle in Switzerland. I think it would be a different story than if you say, hey, I'm a newcomer, I just landed yesterday and I want to do this project, and give me a permit. So I think it would be harder to sell. So again, come with a proof of concept, come with a prototype, something you have built that works. And I think then it would be a better selling point to everybody, to the Swiss authorities, to get the permit, to get registered, to get funders, co-founders, or money, basically funding. Funders are not going to fund into a company that doesn't have a proof of concept. So they want to see that you're getting some interest already. So when people go for a round of funding, they usually have something that's moving forward. So your first stage before the country where you want to be, I would say, start with the product or the service, the community around it, maybe build a community around something, and see where your community is as well. Maybe based on what you're trying to build, your community is, I don't know, in the UK or something like that. So it's not so much about the country as opposed to where do you have your clients and where do you have your concept that has the potential growth. And that takes time. Maybe it takes even a few years. And then you say, oh, okay, well, most of my clients seems to be in Thailand. I'm just making it up. Or most of my clients that are interested based on statistics I see on my website seem to be in China. You never know where your product or your service will pick up. So I think the country issue is not such a big deal at the beginning. I'm working in Cargill, India business. Can I join Cargill, Switzerland? This is from Relocation. I think you have to talk to your HR department and signal that you're interested in relocation now. So yeah, I think it's probably the best way to move into Switzerland is to do a relocation via your company. So I was saying the UN for people who don't have a company, but if you work for big multinationals, then the easiest thing is to be relocated via the company, which is what I did when I came to Switzerland. I didn't come by myself. I was relocated by my company. So it makes it so much easier. They look for the housing for you. They help you set up. They help you with the culture. You don't have to worry about anything. So especially Cargill, you being such a big company, they would probably take care of you when you relocate. So just signal to your HR department and your manager that you would love to pursue your career in the Swiss location, doing whatever it is that you're doing, and that you want to be notified when there's opportunities. And then you're signaling to them you're interested. And then when something pops up, then and they see your resume that you're applying, they would know. They would know that you already signaled you were interested. I think most international companies do want to promote internally. I think it's also it's a way for people to grow. I think the question mark for this move would be because the company would always look at, well, sometimes they look at what's good for the individual, but they also look at what's good for the position. So if you're a really strong candidate for a relocation because the job that opens up in Switzerland is exactly what you're doing in India, then it makes sense. But if the job needs completely different skill set, they're not going to relocate you just because you want to live there. You see what I mean? So you would have to see what kind of job openings would be available in Switzerland, and is that really mostly in your field? Because I don't know what Cargill would want in Switzerland, but it may not match with your career that you have right now. So it's something to pursue. But signal to them you're interested. Keep looking at openings in Switzerland. There may not be, I haven't checked in multinationals what's happening. I know some are laying off people, so I don't think right now there would be a lot for international relocation. But it's something you can start now slowly, and then maybe in the next couple of years, you can find something. But yeah, that's your best bet, is to go with your company relocation. Everything is paid for. They would take care of you. You would come in a good position, as opposed to someone who's coming by themselves and having to struggle to just get seen. And again, right now, if you're a non-EU, companies are not going to consider resumes. And you have to remember that a lot of people are looking right now in Europe, everywhere. Mostly in Switzerland, they would be looking in, people that are already based in Switzerland would be looking at jobs. So it's a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I would say you have to see again which pockets of opportunities are opening right now. 2021 economically, it is going to be a challenge for everybody. So this is not the time where you're going to make huge shifts in terms of finding the best job in the world with the biggest salary and so forth, because I think opportunities will only be in certain industries and very pocketed like that. So again, you just have to look at the websites, the job boards. You can prepare for your next career step. I think right now is preparation time. Keep learning, keep educating yourself in your field to become that go-to person and professional in your field. So right now what you can do is increase your visibility, start writing a blog about what you do, or start making videos so that you can get some attraction to your profile. And then when the market gets better, you already have built something, and you're not just someone who's applying like everybody else, but you're already identified as an expert in your field, and you can get a job faster like this, as opposed to someone who just waited until the crisis passed. So yeah, use this time as much as you can with growth activities like learning more about your industry, taking courses online, join communities and clubs. So right now I started a business club in Switzerland called C-Suite, the club. And this is where people who are really growth oriented and want to use this time also to develop their network, understand what industries are growing, etc. So at least they're keeping themselves ready for when things start moving forward a little bit more. So those are the kinds of things right now that people can do. If they don't have a job opening that matches right now, what they can do is prepare for when that opening comes, and they would be a good fit for it. So yeah, it doesn't have to be immediate placement, but prepare for it, because markets do go up and down, and the downtime is when you prepare, you learn, you position yourself, you increase your specialty, or maybe you change jobs if that's what you want to do. You can also train yourself for that. And then when the market goes back to a better situation, then you can start applying. But yeah, there won't be much to apply for at the moment, I'm afraid, in a lot of places. But you can prepare for when things do come a bit more lively. There are, again, pockets right now that are still recruiting. I think IT, again, I think I just made a video where I talked about the 3 sectors that are still quite lively right now. It's IT, it's, but again, for Switzerland, we would have to have a EU passport. But it's IT, the commercial sector, in some parts of the commercial sector, and tech also is recruiting for, again, very specific things. So there are opportunities, but you just need to be really a good fit for it, be already on the spot in Switzerland, and so forth. So John Smith is saying, thank you so much, Isabelle. I hope you're doing good there. Yeah, with a very, very harsh winter, but I think it's pretty much everywhere. We just have a very tough winter, and I'm in a part of the world where it snows a lot. It's a little bit too much snow for me, I think. Really, I like the sea, and I think Dubai right now is something that a place where I would really love to be very honest with you, because 25 degrees would be ideal. I think I'm a bit tired of being cold, so I would be a Dubai applicant right now. Could you please provide your blog ID? I'm not sure what that is. I don't have a blog ID. I have a website, if that's what you mean. Yeah, it's isabellelitzler.com. If you look under my videos, you have all the tags for me. So my website, my social, also the different things that I do, courses and the club and all that. It's all under each video. I have all the different links. So you can just go and look under each video, and you have all my stuff there, if you want to contact me that way. Well, that was a great live. I know I've postponed it because I was completely, my head was spinning, and yesterday I completely forgot it, to be very honest. And I just realized I had something to do tonight, and then when I looked at my calendar, I realized I missed it. So I think my head is a bit stretched right now with too much information overload. So yeah, it's sometimes when you have your own business, and entrepreneurs do say it, you never have your mind at rest. So when you leave your day job and you work for somebody, you're like, okay, weekends, evenings, I don't think about it. When you have your own business, you're constantly thinking about stuff. So sometimes I'm in information overload, where I'm thinking 200 things at the same time, and I'm just trying to focus. And this is probably the biggest thing. That's an idea for someone who wants to start a business, is focus for entrepreneurs, how to help them focus. So that's the toughest one, I find. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I'll end the live. It was quite enjoyable. I liked all the questions. There were quite a mixed bag of questions going from different topics. But again, to close this live, I would say, wherever you are, just hang in there. Things are going to get better at some point. Right now, just prepare, just keep learning to make your profile, to keep your profile marketable, and that's lively and up to the latest. I would say the latest news in your profile, in your field. So you want to keep up with your field, is what I'm trying to say. So So read the professional information about your activity, read websites, sign up for courses. So basically keep yourself up, keep yourself informed, especially with technology, because it's moving very quickly right now. So you want to stay pretty much attuned to what's going on, so that when things get better, you're ready to go and you can quickly apply and have all the different bells and whistles that companies want. Okay, I will let you go. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon on the channel. Bye. Oh, John is saying when next live session. I will see how many questions I get. So if I have a lot of questions to answer, I'll probably do it next Friday. I'll see with my calendar as well. So let's try to shoot for next Friday. And usually I say in advance when I'm going live on YouTube. So I will post probably early next week to see when the next live YouTube will be. Bye.